Well, Mets fans, we can breathe a little easier today. As as of last night, after losing a 4-3 10 in game to the Cubs and BS a BS press conference and two losing streaks of 6 in a row or more throughout the course of the first half of the season, Carlos Mendoza has finally been fired by the New York Mets as manager. Taking his place is Andy Green as interim manager, but he's a young players relations coach. I don't know how that's going to work. And even then, for the rest of this year, Andy Green's management is going to be for little more than damage control. I am both, I am in one shot. I am happy he's gone, frustrated that it took this long, and disgusted that it took this long to get him out. And finally relieved that the avalanche has begun with this team. Let me explain. I mean, when the core was announced for this season, I pretty much knew this team was not going to do that well. When you basically blow the core up because your quote unquote team leader has a bit, his wife has a hissy fit because the players won't, some of the wives of the other players will not accept her aspirations outside of baseball, and then her aspirations bleed into the locker room, leading to the mess we see with this Met team today. And you do nothing to try to mitigate it. Instead, you kiss that player's ass. Yeah. How do you think that this shit stain of a season was going to play out? And then throw in pitchers who are injured that you keep throwing out there instead of, to double down in injury cover-ups instead of getting them out of the rotation and just shutting them down and forcing them to go under the knife. Kodai Senga, Shamanaya, David Peterson, who's now got shipped out to the Cubs for a first base prospect. It's just so frustrating. But last night was the straw that broke the camel's back for owner Steve Cohen. I mean, he likes Mendy. He thinks he's a good man, but a manager he is not. So he fired him. And now a certain little narcissistic sleazeball who calls himself a GM no longer has his main shield. He's got nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. And Cohen, if you're listening to this, I hope in 2027, when this season's over, you fire Stearns as well. Look at how he destroyed this team, sabotaged it. Oh, he's a good small market team GM like he was in Milwaukee, but when it comes to big markets, he's stuck in his rigid mindset. No flexibility, all ego, all the time. I mean, think about it, folks. 28 games in the season. The Mets and Phillies were at the same record, 9 wins, 19 losses. Dave Dombrowski, the guy who is the GM of Philadelphia, seeing that Rob Thompson is getting nowhere. And each year since 2022, the team has gotten, in terms of their playoff progression, worse and worse. So he fires Thompson and replaces him with Don Mattingly. And what has Donnie Baseball done? Taken the ball and run off with it. Philadelphia has won 37 or 36 or 37 of their last 53. It enrages me that instead of doing the same thing, realizing Mendoza's not working out, Stearns opted to double down on keeping a brain-dead, idiotic, compulsively gambling, manically depressed puppet because he needed a shield to have the blame deflected. He needed a scapegoat. And in that same stretch of time, Mets went 25-28. And all because he wants an analytically obsessed android. Well, when whoever replaces Stearns as GM and forces him back into his position as president of baseball ops comes in, whoever that is, throw analytics out the effing window. Blow the core up, and we rebuild it from scratch in 27. If there even is a 2027 season. For those who don't get that, it's the whole fact that the CBA deal between the players union and the owners, I mean the player association and the owners, is going to expire in and around Christmas. I mean, this coming Christmas. And one of the proposed ideas to the new CBA is something that affects the players. But benefits the small market squad owners. What is it? Teams that give their players money, big money contracts, but defer most of the money and paying them small percentile increments get penalized. I mean, you've heard of the Cohen tax? They might as well change that name to the Walter tax. Now, for those who don't know what I mean by the Walter tax, it refers to Mark Walter, the leader of the Guggenheim Baseball Management Consortium, who purchased the team in 2012 for a $2.15 billion investment. Aside from Walter, it also includes Magic Johnson, Todd Bowling, Stan Kasten, Peter Guber, and Billie Jean King. To name a few. It is just so for, and this would be, and what would happen, and why would you strip the large market teams of deferring money ability? Simple. It basically puts them under the gun to either pay the full amount annually you're offering a player annually, or you're going to lose draft picks, or it'll cost you a draft pick. I like the concept, especially when you consider how much the Dodgers have been getting away with this crap for the last few years now. They need to get penalized. They need to pay the penalty. Having said that, back to the Mets. Will Andy Green do a good job as interim manager for the second half of the season? I don't know. Will this team get to the playoffs? No. Will someone be willing to take up the job after this season and Green gets fired and Green gets let go? I'd say yes. Shockingly enough, one of the rumors I've heard is Albert Pujols is interested in the job. Job according to Wardy. Yeah, that Albert Pujols. St. Louis Cardinals legend, two-time World Series champ, one of only 4 men to hit 700 career home runs in Major League Baseball history. And when you consider Albert's more of a throwback player who didn't really rely on analytics when he came up in the 2000s, this may be the guy to whip the heart and to insert a heart back into a dead carcass known as the New York Mets. Oh, and just for the record, Danhausen, if I could address one, Danhausen, as much as people paid you to uncurse the Mets, it didn't work. Mostly because you never put a curse on the damn team to begin with. Now, if I wanted you to pay you off to curse David Stearns, I'd do it if given the chance just to get him out of that office. I mean, mainly just for the sake of getting him out of that damn office. I would find it hilarious. You show up to throw ceremonial first pitch at a Met game coming up in July. Then you approach David Stearns and you tell him, I hear from a fan that because I never put a curse on this team, my uncurse didn't work. Danhausen's uncursing didn't work. And a few fans point to you as the cause of the problem. So, Mr. Stearns, you are cursed. And then everything goes downhill from there for the team. But ultimately, it would be enough to get Stearns out of the front office. In theory, anyway. In any case, let's see what Andy Green does in these final 81 starting tonight against Philadelphia. For better or worse, we're getting a new GM next year, if there even is a season to play in 2027. Sorry for this episode of On the Diamond being very impromptu, but I had to get this off my chest. Comment, like, and subscribe to the Aboriginal Sports Network and my own network, Mets 2128, as well as all the other content creators on the ABSN. I'm Mets 2128. Goodbye and good effing night. I'll catch you later for episode 162 of the Mega Mets podcast, where Megan and I predict for AEW's Forbidden Door 2026. Bang.